Good evening, everyone. It's 6:32. The Board of Education meeting is called to order. First on the agenda is roll call. Trustee James, would you mind going that, please?
Certainly, Madam Vice President. I think. Trustee Fields? Here. Trustee Townsend? Here. Trustee Goodrich? Vice President Lee?
Here.
I'm Trustee Gainsley. I'm present. And Trustee Schindler? Here. And President Hawkins is not here. 5 members present.
Thank you. President Hawkins, thank you. And at this time, may I ask Superintendent Dr. Gregory Ross to lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Thank you. I'd like to ask the board and the public if you join us in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands.
Madam President, were we going to amend the agenda to put the field trips at the start? Dr. Hawkins had suggested that. You're welcome.
So we have a field trip.
And Julie made it action item 5.
I wonder if we could just put them right after the points of pride?
I'm in agreement with that. I think that'll work.
Yeah. Madam Vice President, I move we accept the agenda as amended. Second.
Support, please.
Support Trustee Townsend.
Motion was made by Trustee Gainsley and supported by Trustee Townsend. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? None. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. At this time, we are at number 4, achievements and awards and recognition. And at this time, I'll pass it over to Superintendent Dr. Gregory Ross.
Thank you, Madam Vice President Lee. At this time, the Ypsilanti Community High School's Points of Pride will be led by Dr. Chelsea Harris-Hugan. I know usually we have the full group of students here. We have had the power outages, and I know she had intended to bring more folks with her, and she called this morning and said, you know, they were coming. However, we do still have behind me a presentation because of the changes and the because of the students not being here and being prepared. They still had a presentation that they wanted to show for their points of pride. And so we have with us the principal of Ypsilanti Community High School.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board members. We're gonna get started. I do have all of my adult folks with me that are able to drive and brave this weather. So I've got Mr. Alvarado, Ms. Ayers, Mr. Shunk, Mr. Burnett, and Chef. Everybody knows Chef because he cooks all that wonderful food for everybody. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with our points of pride. And first up is our social emotional learning portion.
So in December of 2022, we all staff received a copy of this book, Practicing Mindfulness. There are 75 different meditations in it that range from anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes long. And we are completing a book study with this book with the staff. We've also instituted our Wellness Wednesdays, which is a weekly activity we do using the activities out of the book with the entire school at once, doing some mindfulness practices, and different staff members are volunteering for each Wednesday activity to lead them. We held our first one in the beginning of February, and we're looking forward to doing more.
So one of the things that we have really wanted to focus on were clubs to our students. So as we came back from COVID, more and more students started coming back to the high school, and we started getting new enrollment, and we wanted to make an atmosphere and environment where the students felt welcome, and they also felt valued and important, and that they fit in somewhere. If it wasn't athletics or choir performance, maybe it's something else. So we challenged our teachers, and we came up with several clubs that are very popular, very exciting, and we just hope to expand year after year. But this year we have expanded with clubs such as poetry, writing, drama, really establishing our student council and our NHS. We have a lot of social emotional clubs such as the GSA. We also have a DECA NASB. So we're going to be very competitive with our other high schools by implementing a full wealth of clubs that our students could participate in if they are not an athlete or a performer, so that they feel part of a community. And then I'm back up. I'm sorry, curriculum and instruction. So our curriculum instruction, we're going to hear later about our SBGs, standard-based grading. We're going to hear that later presentation from our principal. But one thing that we have done to help us support our students with their math is not only implementing some math foundation classes to fill in the gap for middle school, but we also author Math Lab, which started about 2 months ago, and we do it during lunchtime. And this is completely volunteer. We open it up. We have our teachers volunteer their lunchtime, or we have college students coming in from EMU that will offer tutoring during lunchtime. And we said, let's try it. Let's open it up. What's the worst that could happen? One student show up and then it's not popular. We end up closing it. But literally, we have students actually coming every single day and filling in. And what started with just a couple led to 10 to 12 students giving up their lunch or eating their lunch because they eat it, but they're getting tutored and students. And now the word is out. If you need help in math, we get it during lunchtime. Or students like, I'm a little confused, but I'm going to get help during lunch. And so it's really great to see that program that just got implemented a couple months ago really thriving during lunchtime. Professional development, we went to our teachers to say, okay, we've been out of COVID, we're coming back. What is it that you need in order to excel and bring up our academic performance? So with our teacher input, we have really felt that we have customized and really done our PD for our staff that is relevant and something that they can implement immediately. One of the things that we have been doing with our teachers is focusing on the NWA. So ensure that they're able to not only understand the data, but being able to interpret the data so they can apply it and bring the students up to the next level. So we have done that every month. We have been meeting and diving into different data digs so that we could go ahead and solve these problems and be able to close the gap of our students that we're currently having. Okay.
Now for the good stuff. And she referred to me as an adult. I don't know if I'm offended or not. Automotive technology, we have a good class going. We got just a bunch of students over there. Atchison Ford contacted us this year. The owner of Atchison Ford, she called up and says, I want to talk to you guys about possibly sponsoring your program. which would mean they're going to donate a new, newer or new automobile for us to train the kids on. But with that sponsorship, Medina Atchison and Jim Bishop, her service manager, came out twice and visited with our students. Our students now have access to Ford specific training. And with that Ford specific training, they'll be prepared to go and work in the dealerships very readily. It's going to give us increased employment opportunities for our work-based learning. With that Ford training, there's only a very small portion of it that is Ford specific. So with the training these students will get, they can go to any dealership anywhere and most of that training will apply. Automotive students also competed in the Skills USA contest this year. It was held over at Washington Community College. I went over there and there were probably maybe 60, 80 students competing. So unfortunately, we didn't place anybody there. Didn't place anybody there to go to state. But we got, we had a good competition. Collision repair technology. When Ford Motor Company, when Atchison came out, they don't have a collision repair program at Atchison Ford. So a gentleman from Ford Motor Company specific came out on another visit and he left there and went over to Buttman Ford and said, hey, you got to sponsor this collision program. So they sponsored the collision program through Buttman Ford, which gives the same opportunities to the collision repair students as far as training and employment opportunities as well. The collision repair hosted the regional competition this year. Washington had been hosting that for probably the last 8 to 10 years. This year, they were too busy building hot rods to sponsor or to host the show. So they told us with about 3 weeks to get prepared. So Daryl got on it. He got just tons of stuff donated for the competition, got fenders from LKQ, all kinds of materials from PPG and Auto Value Store in Ypsilanti. So we hosted the competition and it was just us and Oakland Schools Northeast Campus. We finished with a first and second in collision, I believe, and a fourth place in automotive refinishing. So those students will advance and go on to compete at the state competition in April 14th, 15th, and 16th. Also, Daryl puts together a grant application with the Collision Repair Education Foundation based out of Chicago. They've been very good to us for a lot of years. What that organization does is just gathers stuff and gathers funds and gathers opportunities for collision repair programs across the United States. As a result of that, he received a donation for $8,000 for classroom computers, which we're in the process of getting purchased now. And they sent him a really cool spray gun that I wanted to stick in my pocket and take home. It's a custom SATA spray gun, which is about $1,000 piece, but on the handle, it's got all this hippie kind of graffiti stuff on it. It's a beautiful piece of equipment, easily $1,000 spray gun. And he hasn't put it out for the students to use yet. And, I'd say just show it to him. He also, through his hustle, getting prepared for the competition, got 2 other spray guns donated, one from PPG and one from Developus. Those are approximately $1,000 a piece as well. So probably close to $3,000 in spray gun equipment he got donated. We've had the last 2 years, 61 seed equipment grants, which have benefited our programs tremendously. Our auto facility was built in the late 70s, and the auto mechanic site is outfitted with in-ground hoists, which are bad for the environment and they don't hold up forever. So we've been needing to replace them. So we replaced 3 hoists, in the process of a 4th hoist, and we replaced a big drive-on lift for the alignment machine on the auto mechanic side. On the collision repair side, we've purchased a plastic, it's not a plastic, a glue dent pulling system where you take hot glue. If any of you are crafters, you've worked with hot glue, well, we can stick that on the outside of the car and we can pull dents out without damaging the paint, work it out. So it's a kind of a dentless paint removal. We've purchased an aluminum welder and an aluminum dent puller because cars are becoming more and more aluminum. And they purchased a scanner. Every vehicle that comes in to the shop has to be scanned, or any vehicle comes into any shop for damage has to be scanned when it comes in, runs codes, tells you all the stuff that's wrong. When the car is completed, you have to scan it again. So it's a valuable piece of training equipment for our students. One thing that's not on here is on the next slide. I'm going to have Chef blow his own horn because his list is so long. I can't do him justice, so I'll let him do it. But we have recently completed the application. I mentioned this in a previous board meeting that we were working on an application for a cosmetology program with beautiful Lux Beauty School over off of Whitaker Road. It's going to be great. The instructor over there, we, through conflicts and not getting cooperation from the state, we had about 4 days to get this thing ready. And I took it to her. I says, you need to do this, 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 and this, and this, if you can get it done. And she says, I'll have it done this afternoon. And she did. And she called me back, and then through our beautiful state's new data program, she submitted it, but it wouldn't submit. So we contacted him back, and we were now past the deadline. But the tech guy said, I don't know how she got to the page that she got to that said submit and submitted, but that wasn't a page that she should have been able to get to. And part of their wonderful program they've rolled out. So I called her up again. I said, gosh, I really hate to do this to you, but he sent me a new site. If you'll jump on here and re-upload all the stuff you've done before, then we can get this thing submitted. And so she called me back later that afternoon, says, okay, it's ready to go. You want me to submit? I said, hit the button. So we are submitted, waiting to get that authorized by the state, which I really don't foresee any big problems because she did a wonderful job on the application. So we should have a COS program for our students in the fall. So excited about that. So CTE is doing great things. Chef is always doing great things. He's got two field trips to get approved today because he just runs these kids all over the place and spends money like it grows on trees. But we're happy to give it to him to get these kids opportunities. Chef, come on up.
Thanks so much, Bill. I really appreciate it. So culinary, we always have a very, very exciting year. This time of year is very, very busy for us. We could have done without the last 3 ice days for sure. Students are typically, we're at school till 6 or 7 o'clock at night. Our competition teams work just as hard as the basketball team or football team because we really do want to do well. So in the fall, we had 2 students compete at a college level in the American Culinary Federation over in Muskegon. Both students placed, they took silver medals, beating out college students, which was pretty impressive. Thank you. Yeah, the ACF, American Culinary Federation, does not have a high school level, so my students will compete at the college level, which is pretty outstanding. NASA Hunch Culinary Challenge, we were just recently over in Grand Rapids. The Grand Rapids Community College, Dr. Werner, who's the director of the program over there, big supporter of the NASA Hunch program. We got to meet astronaut Jose Hernandez, who is the first immigrant astronaut in the United States. His biopic will be out on Amazon in the fall. He has a very, very interesting, wonderful story. It was great for him to just have a few minutes with the kids and just talk to him about a little bit of his backstory. Wonderful, wonderful guy. So NASA Hunch, we got a mini grant. Thank you so much for that, to actually provide for that program. We are waiting currently right now to see if we are top 10 in the United States. If we are, I'll be back asking for permission to take some children down to Houston, Texas again. So fingers crossed with that one. Skills USA State Officer, Madam Historian Michaela Beverly, so is finishing up her year of service with Skills USA Michigan. So she will, her and 6 other state officers from around the state will be running the Skills USA State Championship and Leadership Conference in April. So really great. She just recently, right before I came here, I got an email that the Michigan Department of Education actually wrote an article about her, highlighting her for the entire state as part of CTE month. So I'll make sure we get that shared around because I just literally got it. We have a new student who actually wants to run for state officer, Madison Bell. She is a Lincoln student, so she's very, very excited to run for state officer. So we might have another state officer coming up next year. Interesting stuff that we've been doing so far. 100% of all culinary students have at least one industry recognized certification. Every single student will do that. They have the opportunity to earn up to 7 industry certificates. So another one of our big competitions is the Pro Start competition coming up in Port Huron. That will be gone Sunday and Monday for that one. These 4 students have been really working very hard for this competition. So this is a really big opportunity for them. And we got a really solid menu this year. So I think good things are to come. So we had 5 students compete at Skills USA State Championship in April. So we're going to take 5 more students for that, along with some automotive students to compete in job demo, action skills, and state officer is one of our students running for state officer. Articulation agreements are really important to us. So we have active articulation agreements with Culinary Institute of Michigan, which is Baker College, Port Huron campus, and Muskegon campus. Plus, we just recently signed an articulation agreement with Oakland Community College, and I'm currently just finishing up on an articulation agreement with the Detroit Institute of Gastronomy, which is one of the newest culinary schools in the state. It's a very unique program. It's actually a European style program where students are actually spend the majority of the time actually working in industry, and they are paid to go to school, which is just a remarkable thing for these students to have. Work-based learning work-based learning agreements, Main Street Ventures, which is La Dolce Vita, Real Seafood Company, etc. They are just a huge supporter of my program. I can't thank them enough. They'll be taking some students on at Real Seafood Company this spring to do a 2-week, 30-hour internship, which is really exciting. Then I have a brand new agreement with Marriott over on Ford Lake. Eagle Crest, I believe is what it's called. That our students are going to be going there for some work-based learning. And I'm really excited about that one, because Marriott will pay students to go to college and get an associate's degree if they're employed there for a certain period of time. So, which is super exciting for us. So a couple big grants, thanks to Bill and all of his efforts. So the 61C grant last year, at the end of the school year, we basically replaced every single pot, pan, rubber scraper tool in my entire lab, which was really exciting. Brand new equipment's always nice. Obviously, high school students are very tough on equipment, so it doesn't last very long. And then this year, we're really super excited. Capital improvement grant again, the 61C. We're actually purchasing a combi oven. So a combi oven is basically a state-of-the-art oven used in pretty much every single culinary school across the world, and then in every large operation. So a combi oven can actually smoke, steam, and bake all at the same time. And it's actually a computerized system. So we actually have to use software to actually program this oven on how much steam, how much bake, how much smoke, and at what times through the baking process. So it's a really amazing thing for us to have. Plus, it just makes culinary fit even better into STEM education. So, thank you.
As we're talking about points of pride, just one more thing. I'm very proud of all of our CTE staff and the job they do. But this guy right here is second best probably in the state. The only one that's better is the person that's trained him up in Saginaw, maybe. But he just does a phenomenal job for these kids. He's there around the clock this time of year. And I'm just really appreciative of our staff and the work that they do for these students. Thank you.
Me again. So what happens after you do the fall NWA test and you find out that the majority of our freshmen are coming in and not being able to interpret data, nor being able how to read a graph chart. And then we also have a grant, an opportunity to work with the Southwest Michigan Stewardship Coalition about environmental change. What do? Well, we marry those two into one thing. So what we did is we did something fun and exciting for our freshman students this year. We taught them, so we went ahead and gave them a tutorial about climate change, about different things that are happening. And we had them create data points as well as charts and be able to explain it to their fellow students about how to interpret the data, how to understand it from year to year, and how this is going to affect our climate and what we could do about it. So this is something that they did not only within the math class, but also brought out the art, the science, and the social studies as well. So well that there is the Michigan Teacher Association Conference that is being held this Friday, and they asked a couple of our teachers as well as 3 of our students to come and present this project to the conference, the work that they have done.
Again, so I just wanted to highlight a couple of things about our community-based education program at the high school. We're really proud of the progress that they're making with that. For those who aren't familiar with what the community-based education program is, it is our instructional and daily living skills program that we do with students who are on a certificate of completion track in the mild to severe cognitive impairment range. So with these students, we've developed a whole lot of partnerships. The kids every day get to travel. They have bus passes. They go to the transit center, get the bus passes themselves, really developing those independent skills. They make menus, they budget on those menus. Then they go to Meijer, they purchase the items. On Fridays, they cook the items. So they've been doing a lot with that. This year, we actually added a staff coffee cart that they do every other week in partnership with Michigan Rehabilitation Services. And because of that part and the partnership with MRS, all of the students in the CBE program will have a Serve Safe certification, which will translate to a little bit more of a priority if they're looking into some of those restaurant jobs. So we're super proud of them with that. We're also working on summer internships with them. So they've got several community partnerships working with restaurants, stores, all of that, where the kids will go in, they will have a job coach with them, they will work, all developing independent living skills for our students who aren't on that traditional graduation diploma track.
All right, I just wanted to share a little bit about Ypsilanti STEM Middle College, and our mission is to prepare students for success in college, career, life through mentor relationships, and also just exposing them to the STEM opportunities out there. And so one of the trips we did this fall was the MEMCA is the Michigan Early Middle College Association, who does our MEMCA certificates. So all of our 5th year graduates from the middle college get a certificate kind of stamped the approval of MEMCA. And so they had a student leadership conference, and this is the first time we got to take students because I started right before taking over the middle college, right before the pandemic hit. So this year is like kind of rebuilding all the like trips and the things that we used to do and I dream of doing, because getting on Zoom and interacting with other teenagers it doesn't work very well. So I had these 9 students who got to this, they had to get to school early to go because we had to leave before the buses so we can get to Flint by 9 o'clock. And they were all there on time. Like actually most of them were there before me because I think I had to pick up a student on the way. And I was just so impressed. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are here before school. Like you got your rides. And so we had just a great time. And so a lot of those pictures up there from that. And they just represented us well, and they got to interact with other middle college students, which just getting students out of the regular environment and interacting with others across the state is great. So we're gonna have another trip probably in the spring. There's another one of those. You can go back. So just a couple things though, but we have some just some connections with our partners, WCC, EMU, and U of M. There's some three trips coming up where they're going to go onto the college campuses and engage with faculty and college students from College of Engineering and the STEM Scholar Program at WCC. So really excited about those. Now you can go to the next one. Kind of connected with that is Grizzly Robotics, which is where the STEM Middle College came out of. Was from Team 66, and we got to go to Flint. Hey, we're always going to Flint, I guess, for the Kettering kickoff in September. And took a lot of our new students. A lot of them were students who had never competed before, and they got to basically do last year's competition and get some practice. And yeah, a few of those are actually 3 of them there are going to be probably on our drive team, or at least really, really going with this competition that we have next week. And so we've been working really hard since January. I'm really excited about this season. We are rebuilding the team since, there you go, the pandemic again. Like we have mainly freshmen and sophomores are like the core of our team, a couple juniors too. But we're just really rebuilding the team, and we have a good set of new mentors this year, and everyone's been positive, working together. We are in their last week though, so they might get a little stressed and yell at each other now, but they're just like excellent, some engineers and programmers working with our kids. And they might still be there now. They might be there till 9 o'clock every day this week, but you can kind of see I got our schedule up there. Like we've been really busy. And them more than me. I've worked out where I don't have to be there all the time because we got different teachers talking. And so my wife likes that. And so, yeah, we got some events coming up. I really want to encourage anyone to come and cheer us on at Milford High School next weekend. It's a Friday, Saturday competition. And so there's 2 days of it. And then in Belleville, it's even closer. So Friday, Saturday, you can free to come and cheer us on. And it'd be great. See you cheering the Grizzlies. And we get you some extra shirts too if you want to wear a Grizzly robotics shirt.
All right. Graduation pathways for this year. Dr. Alina Zachary Ross and I have been talking a lot about getting our students to graduate with some type of transferable skills. So we've got some wonderful things planned, but here are the pathways that we have current and what we want to accomplish. The certified nursing program and auto repair, culinary, we already have. Microsoft Teals offers our students, we have a partnership with Microsoft. They offer some certifications through that. We have a podcasting, they offer certifications through that, the business entrepreneurship, introduction to the skilled trades, which we'll talk more about with WCC, the Michigan Rehabilitation Services Certificate, YCS at Work, MEMCA, Performance Arts, and dual enrollment. So these we're going to ensure that all of our students are able to graduate this year. Our goal is to graduate each one of them in one of those certificates. We are having monthly meetings with our seniors. We talk about the business of being a senior and then the fun side of being a senior. We have impressed upon our seniors how important it is to take care of your business before you actually have the parties. So we are talking about what that looks like and what it takes to complete one of those programs. But our goal this year is to graduate every single one of our students with one of those certificates. So where our goal is to graduate, the graduation to mirror those college graduations by graduating by certificate, not how we previously done it, ABC order, and they're all together, but graduating like the colleges. If you're in the College of Ed, you graduate with the College of Ed. So just some of those things. Charles and I have partnered and talked about involving our A students to ensure that we are one high school, one voice, and that we're getting the work done and providing equal opportunities for all of our students. That transferable skill, increased opportunities for middle college and dual enrollment, increased instruction and practice with WCC. One thing that Mr. Davis always says is that they can't be it if they can't see it. And I think that's incredibly important, that they must be able to see themselves in those roles and get the practice early. So we want to really push for our students to be at WCC all the time. Career pathways, every 10th grader starting this year, every student, going at the end of their 10th grade year, will have to choose a 2-year pathway. So we'll have those pathways created, what they look like, and every single one of our students will choose one of those pathways so that they can walk away at the end of their senior year with a transferable skill and or some college credits. Our partnerships, which I know that all of you have heard about, the Toyota and DC D3, C3, creating pathways for our students and our families so that our students and our families have the opportunity to become more financially stable. I think that's a great add for all of us and even our community. So I think it raises the awareness and the ability to be financially literate for our students as well as our families. Another part we're doing for our 12th graders this year is all of our teachers are going to adopt one of our 12th graders so that we can start every single one of our 12th graders with a banking account. So that is another thing that's important. A lot of students are so quick to slide a card and not really realize the old fashioned way, how we used to have to balance the checkbook and all of that, but teaching them those skills and not necessarily balancing a checkbook, but balancing the money that you're spending and understanding what opportunity costs are. So putting some financial literacy pieces in place for them as well. And then we do have fun with all of that. What it's like in a day in the life of the Grizzly, we did a little program. And then if you, yeah, there we go. I got it for everybody. But thank you for listening, everybody.
We have acceptance of field trip request at 8 for May 23rd, 2023. Could I have a motion?
Madam President, this is trustee Gainsleigh. I move that the Board of Education approve the field trip of ACE to Sandusky, Ohio on May 23rd, 2023.
Could I get support for that, please?
Support, trustee Schindler.
Motion was made by trustee Gainsleigh and supported by trustee Schindler. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those. Against? Hearing none, motion passed 5-0. Thank you. Next, we have acceptance of a field trip request from YCS RCTC culinary from March 5th through 6th 2023 support payment. May I have a motion?
Madam President, Vice President. I move that the Board of Education approve the overnight field trip of the Ypsilanti Community High School Culinary Program, Port Huron, on March 5 and 6, 2023.
Is there support?
Trustee Townsend, support.
Motion was made by trustee Fields, supported by trustee Townsend. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Hearing none. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have accepted the field trip request from YCS, RCTC Culinary, April 14th through 16th, 2023 to Grand Rapids. May I have a motion, please?
Trustee Townsend, I move that the Board of Education approve the overnight field trip of the Ypsilanti Community High School Culinary Program to Grand Rapids on April 14th through the 16th, 2023.
Is there support?
Support, trustee Schindler.
Motion was made by trustee Townsend, supported by trustee Schindler. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Hearing none, motion passed 5-0. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have another presentation. I will hand this over to Superintendent Dr. Zachary Ross.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. And I'd like to also bring to the attention, I know that this person isn't here, but I know in the achievements, we just wanted to make sure that the board recognized Ms. Casey Corbin for achieving the Michigan School Business Officials Human Resource Specialist certification. She met the requirements for certification under the Michigan School Business Officials Volunteer Certification Program. Wow, you pulling that up for Dr. Lopez. And has earned the Human Resource Specialist certification. It's a commitment of 90 hours of professional development and that was established by the MSBO Board of Directors through their Professional Development Committee. So we just want to congratulate Ms. Corbin on her accomplishment. I'm giving you time. Thank you, Dr. Lopez. I know that this is a requirement by the state that we do this report. And so we appreciate you for making up a little bit of time.
Well, good evening, trustee Lee and all the trustees and Dr. Zachary Ross and the community and everyone's here. Today, based on law, the Michigan law, school law, we have to present section 98B, our goal progress report in February and again at the end in June. I'm excited because I'm bringing great news and I'm excited about it. But before we start, I really wanted to touch, it's the last day, one more day before for the end of the month, and it's African American History Month. And I really think it's, with us having the vision of saving lives, I just want to bring to light an invention. When we think about the Garrett Morgan, he invented the 3 precision traffic light before he had been in the street and he watched a major accident, and he went back and he created this opportunity so that, you have the amber, the yellow light. So in essence, at the end, years later, or that same year, he was able to sell it to GE for $40,000, his pattern. But it wasn't about that. It was more about he saw something, did something about it, but also as the contribution of African Americans. Black history, ladies and gentlemen, is American history. And it's important that we celebrate. And I really want to applaud this board because of your general unapologetic commitment to equity and also to making sure that our children, our Black and brown children, are seen. and that they're seeing in the materials and everything that goes on. And we're very unapologetic about that. And I want to applaud that work. As just, I just think it's important that we highlight this. As we move forward, today, I'm going to walk you through a couple of things. The law pretty much says that we have to do this, not only do this, but it's important that, we'll come back to you with a report of our data and our progress. How do we know where we're headed if we don't know where we are? And so this is important. And tomorrow I will post this report to the transparency page so that the community can get their hands on it. We are required to have a middle and an end of the year goal. And the goal is normally the same, but what's different is the second bullet at the bottom, which is, referred to the 2022-23 ELA, reading quarterly expectations that we have in the district that identify the priority standards that need to be met by January 31st and again by June 12th, 2023. And this is an ELA, and we also have it in mathematics. It's required by law. This is how we target the work that we're doing, so we know we're on point. This story today that I'm going to share very quickly is a story about resilience, dedication, hard work, and perseverance demonstrated by the CEOs of our classrooms. Those are our teachers. Words cannot express their courage and the work that they've done to support our students. They have worked with our students and are building their leaders to create those conditions that unleash the greatness that is inside of every student that comes here to our district. We don't take that for granted, and we need to make sure that we recognize that when we give teachers voice, choice, and agency, you get these types of results. When you give student voice, choice, and agency, they get the results that are unprecedented. This story is about our learning community coming together to create the conditions and a path forward. It's courageous work, it's intentional, has led to right precision. But what I want to say is that we're seeing the growth of our rigorous curriculum with the supports interventions, and it's working. And today is an indication of how that's moving forward. Trust and inspire, we can't force people to do things. The best thing that we can do as leader is believe. So at this district, we believe that people have the greatness inside them. They're whole people. There is enough for everybody. Leadership is about stewardship, and ensuring influence is created from the inside out. In doing so, we see people that our job as leaders, classroom and et cetera, is to unleash the potential, not control our student. It's about unleashing their talent, their gift. It's to inspire, not merely motivate. It's to elevate, caring above competition, and put service above. But most of all, we need to go first. And when we talk about going first, is this: we need to listen, admit when we're wrong, get curious, not furious. And Alina tells me that 24/7. Carlos, get curious, not furious. And I think it's so important that we model that. Take responsibility for poor results. I think it's important that we put that mirror on my face. Great transparency when everything else is operating from a hidden agenda. Show respect, clarify expectation, and presume positive intent. Tell the truth instead of creating a spin. I think that the perspective is what everyone expects us is to be clear, listen, and learn, because other people may see something that we may not see. And we need to be open. And by staying curious and not furious, we learn, we listen, we grow, and we serve children better. Our takeaway today that I would like you to do it when you look at all the complete report is that our overall student proficiency and growth measures are growing. So all our overall student proficiency and growth continues to increase in both reading and mathematics as measured on NWEA norms. Our overall effective proficiency and growth in I don't like using the word subgroup, but groups as measured by NWA continues to grow. So for when you have the opportunity to go deeply, you'll see that our special education students are growing both in performance and growth in reading and mathematics. So are our English language learners and our African-American students. So you will see that throughout the whole document. Today's takeaway also is the quality of instruction delivered by our instructional staff. have been impactful over the last 3 academic year. And I'm proud of that because that's the work that we've led and I'm responsible for. And we need to continue to teach our students tier one, the ambitious teaching with the formative assessment. That's very unapologetic for us. And then the piece with the tier two, tier three support, all the interventions that we have, as you saw that the high school showed about those kind of interventions and support, such as the tutoring, et cetera, high dosage tutoring and all that goes on in this district. When we look at this page, just simple, if you get a chance to take a look, I'm gonna walk you because I like my talking points because it makes it a little bit more clear and I could go. When you look at this page, what you're seeing is this is our mid-year winter NWA data. And it shows that the district wide average reading achievement improved from fall to winter for all grades with the exception of grade 10 and 11. This is an improvement over the 21-22 school year when the district wide average in reading improved from fall to winter only in kindergarten through grade 5. So 6 to 8 rocked it, as well as in 12th grade for et cetera. The comparison winter NWA district-wide reading average achievement between last year and this year, most of the grade levels average reading scores were within plus or minus 4 points. The only exception was in grade 3 that we saw a big lower this year than last year for the students that we entered this year. The next page is on growth. The orange bar there represents the fall to fall reading growth percentile. So that reading growth that occurred during the 21-22 school year and retained over the summer. This is important because you could see where the growth was retained. That's why there's no orange bar in kindergarten, because there's no growth, because there was nothing before that to measure that growth. The blue bar, on the other hand, is the mid-year fall to winter reading percentiles for 22-23 school year. Except for grades 1 and 6, all other grade levels show fall to winter reading growth excess of the 40th percentile. And even grades 1 and 6 were very, very close to that cut score. When we consider growth percentile in Michigan, the Michigan Department of Education considers the middle quintile between the 40th and 60th percentile to be effective range for teaching and learning, which applies to the vast majority of YCS teachers. So we are in that range. So it's important. Okay. The fall winter students in grades 9 and 10 show growth in excess of the national normal pre-pandemic 50th percentile, and grade 8 and 11 were also very, very close to the 50th percentile from fall to winter regarding growth. So we are in the perspective of growing our students and growing our learning throughout the district. And I think I want to make sure that this is the correct slide. Okay, so this one, math achievement. On this one, the mid-year NWA data shows that the average math achievement improved from fall to winter for all grades, with the exception, of course, as you can see, 10 and 11, where the blue is lower than the orange. On this page with growth, this is the growth one. Again, the orange bar, remember that it represents fall to fall math growth percentile. So that's the growth that occurred during 2021-22 school year. The blue is fall to winter math growth percentile from 22 to 23 school year. Most of the math growth was above 40th percentile, except for grade 1 and 2. Interesting for us was the fall to winter math growth for 12th grade was well above the 50th percentile. Even compared to the national-wide pre-pandemic norms. As a point of reference, these growth percentile are very similar to the student growth percentile measures that the state of Michigan it's uses for M-STEP and gauging M-STEP and my-access. They considered growth percentile of the 40th to 60th effective, as I mentioned earlier. Then this page is the high school. And this last one This shows the graphically where our high school students are with respect to growth. For fall to winter, both math and reading growth were near the national average for most, with 12th grade showing an excess of 66.6 percentile math growth. The arrows point to the fall to winter growth for high school students. For reading growth, it ranged from 47.5 percentile to 12th grade 52.2 percentile in ninth grade. Other than the exceptional growth here for 12th grade, the math, the growth range from 44.2 percentile in ninth grade to 46.7 percentile in 10th grade. So overall, we are moving in the right direction. What I also want to, I'm going to jump from here to online learning, because I think it's worth dialogue, and not to say, when you go through this, please take a look at all the demographic. You could see all our students, but I'm going to jump into our modes of instruction for a second, because we always get a chance to go to all the other ones, whatever. When you look at here, and I just want to go to my, give me a second. But when you go here, you see the growth, significant growth, and watch this. And when you look at the growth for that kindergarten classroom in ELA, right? In reading, look at the kindergarten classroom. It's way up there, right? It's at 70 or 80. I can't see from this far. But when you see you could see the growth, the blue column, okay? That's fall to winter, and you can see the significant growth for that. And now let's look at math, and growth is really up. I know that people question online learning, but online learning is great for kids who do well in that and thrive. So as an option, it is a great tool. And with having the right teachers, well, Rocky, look at that kindergarten teacher. There's one teacher in the district, and both in ELA, that kindergarten class is blowing it out the park. Again, goes with voice, choice, and agency, and making sure that we're doing everything we can to move for our children forward. To close, this is as important takeaway as we reflect on the mid-year growth and achievement data, we notice that both reading and math growth have become more uniform across most of the grade level. And that's very important. This indicates that even with or perhaps at least partial because of our many brand new teachers at ELA math curriculum and pacing are coming into closer alignment with the expectation for teaching. So this is where you start seeing the impact that we have the right curriculum, and with the right professional development and the right instructional coach supporting our teachers in culture and climate, conditions can deliver. And so this effective teaching in turn is one piece of evidence that our teachers and administrators are building equitable and meaningful educational relationship with our students. And what questions might you have? And I know that I didn't want to read it, but I know if I don't, I go all over the place, and I really need to focus this if I only have 7 minutes. What question may I answer? I'm excited, by the way.
So thank you so much, Dr. Lopez. It's always great to dig through some of this data, and I looked through some of it last night. Really happy to see the middle school coming up, and I think that we've seen, as well, enrollment coming up, so many positive moves at the middle school. I'm curious, when your staff went through the data, what was the consensus on grades 11 and 12? What's going on there that's different?
Okay, so that was a good conversation, and I know that I was talking a little bit because it kind of was interesting. I think that a couple of things that points out is the whole perspective that coming back and doing all the things that's been going on, and when we were talking about preparing for 9th grade or 10th grade and 11th grade, there's more rigor in there, and coming and catching up with those skill sets have become challenging for our students, but they're still working at it. I also want to pinpoint, when we went a little deeper, is certain students who didn't make it, but then we have students blowing it off the park, meaning that individual students are exceeding expectations here. But then we have a few, but I don't know if you had any other idea, but I think the perspective is just looking with Clark, et cetera, some gaps that we could see were just basically, did the student apply themselves to taking the NWA? Because normally the kids, high school, when it come to high school, 10th and 11th graders think that I don't have to really mess with this assessment. And that's the challenge. The 9th graders still take it because they've been taking it all along. And then what we found is the 10th and 11th grade kind of just push back, but I'm not sure. What would you take, would you say?
I think our day-to-day and our data conversations are what have really pushed for our student success. We've made it where our students are goal setting with their NWEA data. I think they understand it a little bit more because we're talking through it. We've identified deficit areas that our students have to put plans in place from fall to winter and now winter to spring, what those deficit areas are, and really taking the opportunities to hone in on those and restructuring some of that class time to have like a 30-minute refresher where those specifically where those deficit areas.
The other piece is that we're working on the MAGCIP now. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're coming together to set goals, because what happens now that we are at this point and is you got to keep shifting, right? You got to make it more accelerated. So we're bringing in together all the great minds of our MyKIP teams to make sure that we're targeting the right goals and the right activities and strategies to make sure that we continue to move this forward. And then again, it's going back to the type of intervention needed. And that's, as you could tell when Chelsea was talking earlier, the lab, the math lab, those are how we could really shift this forward. I think that would be like the goal. I think the perspective, we also need to bring the voices of the young people and ask them what's going on. You know, how can we support you? And I think that that's where we are. Used to be a time where people didn't even want to listen to kids. Now people are so hungry to listen to them because they, you know, the people closer to the problem have the answer. But thank you for that question. Thank you.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, the board president, Dr. Celeste Hawkins, has joined us, and I will be turning the meeting over to her. Dr. Hawkins, we have had presentations subject B in our presenter to be Dr. Chelsea.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vice President Lee, for running the meeting in my absence. And thank you for introducing our next presentation. Before we get to item B, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Zachary Ross to introduce Dr. Hugan, who will go over the standards-based grading and the new climate environment presentation. Dr. Zachary Ross.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'll reintroduce Dr. Harris Hugan and possibly her team to bring forward the standards-based grading, and she'll talk also about the new climate and environment that they have at the high school.
All right, thank you. Again, good evening to everyone. I will be brief as I can be to get through.
Please, 8 to 10 minutes.
I will go very expeditiously. So we're looking at our standards-based grading, and what standards-based grading is. We call it SBG around the high school. It evaluates students' progress towards mastering, specifically looking at learning targets within the set of standards. I know that we've done some work around unwrapping and what that unwrapping looks like. It's an intentional way for teachers to track their students' progress and achievements while focusing on helping students in their highest potential. In short, what does that actually mean? Standards-based grading, if you think about buying a used car and they have the ratings for used cars, it's an A, B, C, don't buy rating. That B plus just tells you that this car is pretty decent, right? You'd buy a car that was at a B plus. But when we go over and actually look at what that B plus constitutes, it's the engine, the battery, the transmission, brakes, and tires. So it kind of, that B plus is a combination of all, or average of all those grades. So that's kind of what the standards-based grading looks at. It looks at every component of the learning and identifies where mastery happens at that stage of learning. And it allows our students and our teachers to have that voice and choice that Carlos talked about, to help them create their own learning path and know and understand what their deficit areas are and their strengths are. Why standards-based grading? It grades accurately and represents students' progress and achievement more accurately. When we think about that used car, that B plus versus those individual grades, students have more opportunities to demonstrate mastery in specific areas. It empowers learners to strive for a deeper understanding of the content. Sometimes we present content that's surface. This will allow our students to go a little bit deeper. It ensures equitable grading practices for all of our students. It helps teachers plan for more targeted instruction. So if a teacher is doing 2x4 multiplication, and we know that the student can master 2x2, then we can say, all right, so what's our next step in learning? Teachers effectively align their standards and the pacing with standards-based grading. The journey for YCHS has actually started in 2019 during the pandemic. So I'll read just a little bit through that. 2019 to 2021, there was professional development provided for our teachers around standards-based grading. 20 to 21, staff participated in a book study, grading for equity. Really had some good conversations around that. 21, fall of 21, teachers' learning journey identified and unwrapped power standards, what those standards are, what are the most important standards that students need to know and be able to do to master to get to the next level. They work with students to develop those learning targets, given again that voice and choice in their pathway of learning. They created rubrics for each standard. What does it look like if a student is mastered versus not mastered, and kind of sitting in the middle? I can master that, but I may need a little bit more help. So just kind of looking at some of those rubrics. Plan targeted differentiation. Again, our focus for this year for the high school is differentiated instruction, so that kind of was the springboard for this. Develop equitable procedures for demonstrating mastery. So what does that look like in a classroom? How does one student versus another student identify their mastery? Current spring 22 to present, we are preparing our different math and ELA programs to look a little bit differently in Power School. All departments compile standards for each of their courses. During our building networks, we're working with Solomon to format the standards in Power School. Building network team is working to build grading scales for Power School. What are some of the things that we still need to do with our parents and our students is communicate with parents and all of you and our community, what that standards-based grading looks like. It is a very heavy lift. And if you have been in a district that moved to standards-based grading, it takes a few years to really master it and get it right, so that it is good for our students and our community. Parent meetings. We are in the process of creating a frequently asked questions document to again support our learners, introduce parents to the changes that Power School would look like and help them understand that those students will still receive an overall letter grade. That's important for our seniors. When we look at transcripts and what those transcripts look like, you can't send a transcript over with a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So helping parents understand that that 1, 2, 3, or 4 will translate into an actual grade. For our students, Many of our teachers have started doing some of that standards-based grading in the classrooms, helping our students understand what mastery versus non-mastery looks like and what it actually takes to get there. Reiterate that 4-point grading scale and surveying our students per quarter to know and understand what they value in this process, and revise and edit that program until we have it perfect for our community and our teachers and students. This is a little bit what that 4-point rating scale looks like. So the top one is kind of a generic one. A 4 is mastery, exemplary. 0 is not attempted. So that means that the student never even attempted it. A 1, a lot of times when you think about introducing a lesson, sometimes the students get it, but there's one part of it that they don't get. So that doesn't mean that they failed the whole entire thing. And that's what that standards-based grading allows us to do, is really hone in on the one part that that student is not mastering and build some interventions and support so that that student can master that. And then for the geometry, it's down at the bottom, what a 1, 2, 3, or 4 actually looks like specifically, so that if I am a 1, what does that mean? How do I get to a 4? What are the things that I need to do as a learner to get there? So it really helps our students be able to see what they actually need to do, instead of you walking in and saying, well, you got a C, you need to raise it up to a B. Well, how do I raise it up to a B? Do better. So sometimes, you know, you think about that, and how many of us have faced that in school? Well, you just need to do better. Do better where? So this actually helps our students know and understand where those pieces are that they need to strengthen for themselves. What does full implementation look like for our students and our teachers? Monitoring and adjusting the progress and process. So again, looking at what we're doing, having conversations with our teachers, with our students to create that voice, choice, and agency. Continue professional development, especially for our newly hired staff, to help them understand and master this process. Teacher developed rubrics. So those rubrics that you just saw, that rubric, that bottom rubric, to specifically tell what those students need to know and be able to do. Teacher deeper knowledge and understanding of our standards and pacing. We've done a lot of work around unwrapping those standards, looking at what does it actually take to master those standards. Ongoing communication with parents and families. Communicate, communicate, communicate. What questions might I answer for you? I tried to do it quick.
I been looking this over for a minute, just to understand the process of, going from traditional grades to standard race. And I want to make sure that with this change, there's still an understanding of the required level of excellence with this. So when you say it provides more opportunities for students to master those areas. So are you saying that there are specific areas where, say, if this is a math grade and the student is failing in or not mastering, say, equations, algebra equations or something like that, then will there be some additional support, I'm assuming, to support that student so that they can master it? Or,
so this is a really nice opportunity for a student to demonstrate mastery over time. It's developmentally appropriate, because what happens is you might master this today, and I might have a student in 2 weeks that, with some supports and extra practice in place, and even being able to look at what we're offering a little bit differently for that student that learns a little bit differently, that student might master that in 2 weeks. So instead of having a one and done and saying, on this test, you did not master this specific concept, so I'm going to mark you down, we can give you a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then also talk about what happens to get you to that 4 in that specific area. So it actually provides more opportunities for students to really hone in on what part of this didn't I get. and what does it take to get to that mastery level.
Okay, so then once they leave the district and they go into college and things like that, where it is all regular grading and they may not have those opportunities, how are we ensuring that our students at least can figure out those areas where they may be struggling?
So if we go back to this rubric right here, every college assignment that you turn in has a rubric, right? So this is no different than that. A teacher, your professor might say, well, an A, which is our 4, means that you've done these 6 things in that rubric. And then a 3 means that you've done these 5 things in that rubric. So it's providing them the opportunity, just like college, to be able to look at a rubric and say, okay, this is why I got the 4, not the overall, like you just got a 4 and that's just it. But it is really kind of aligned with what college actually does. You don't ever get an assignment in college where it's just, you get a grade. 99% of your professors have given you a rubric, and what does that rubric look like? So you choose kind of what grade you're looking at by the work that you do. And then this allows us as educators to go back and say, okay, you're a 3. What does that 3 actually mean? And what skills are you needing support with to get to that 4? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and I understand the rubric process. But I'm just saying, as far as when our students are, them just understanding the importance of knowing what is in a rubric and what is required and how to make sure that you stay on task. That's the one
Yeah,
concern
and
I want to have.
I think that this actually will support that, because what it does is it gives the students the opportunity. If I'm at a 3 right now, I have the ability to go back. It puts that onus kind of on the students. I have the ability to go back and look at getting a 4. It's not a one and done. So I can go back and say, all right, how do I get to a 4? Here's where I am. Here's some of the things that I need support with. How are we going to build a plan so that I can get to a 4? And it gives them a deeper understanding of that concept. It's not just your 2 + 2 is 4 and that's it. We can help students understand why 2 + 2 is 4 and actually apply that long-term thinking to make those connections to become critical thinkers, which are much of all of what you need when you go to college, is that critical thinking piece.
I just have a couple of quick questions, or maybe comments. So it sounds like what I hear, you saying, so thank you for sharing all of this information about moving to standards-based grading. The reassessment opportunities will allow students to, I'm assuming, if they have these opportunities to reassess, it allows them to demonstrate mastery in a specific concept.
Yes.
So if they got a 1, and they say, okay, this is where I'm at, and it hones in on some of those areas where they need to strengthen that, and they do well and say get a 4, then that 4 replaces the 1.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I'm assuming too, that through the standards-based grading, there is some flexibility in terms of giving students opportunities to have varied opportunities to demonstrate mastery in a specific concept.
Yes. It's kind of, when you think about like that college project that you have different choices to demonstrate your learning. So it may be that you demonstrate it in a PowerPoint, it may be a project, it may be a hands-on activity where you involve your audience, or whatever it is that demonstrates mastery for them. And that teacher can say, yep, you were able to do these 4 things through your project, through that presentation. It allows our students to really demonstrate mastery in what they love to be able to do. So you think about not canning them into, you have to do a 500-word essay, because some of our students will struggle with that. And we think about like, all right, instead of doing this 500-word essay, involve our audience into how to solve an equation and what equations look like. bring out some manipulatives, things that our students are good at and excel at is what we want to make sure that we highlight so that our students have the opportunity to demonstrate that mastery every single time.
So, but usually though in college, it is what it is. And so I guess that's where I'm wanting to make sure that our students understand they're not going to get opportunities to master it. It is what it is. So my thing is making sure that we teach them before we even get to the grade. Make sure you go into your office hours, make sure you're in
Yes.
class all the time, make sure that you're staying on top of your assignments. And so that's where I want to make sure it's not lost in transition about giving so many opportunities, because in the world outside of Ypsilanti High School, you get that one opportunity and that's it.
Yeah, and I think that's where we talk about like the fun part of being a senior and the business of being a senior. So what does that business look like? And what does that business look like outside of Ypsilanti Community High School? And what are some of those things? Because we talk about sitting in the front, we talk about speaking to your professor, we talk about staying a few minutes after class to have those conversations, things that people probably didn't tell us until it was kind of too late, and why those office hours are important and why we should go there and be there. So I think that you're right. It is a one and done a lot of times in universities, but we also have that choice in universities where they say, okay, do a presentation that demonstrates what you know, make sure these things are covered. So how you choose to do that is on you as a learner. Is that?
I just have one other quick comment. And just thinking and trying to also connect this to preparation for college. If a student, if the goal of standards-based grading is to ensure, and I'm trying to compare it to what we have maybe now and compare it to what it will look like with standard-based grading. If the goal is for students to master a specific concept, there's a process through learning that allows them to master it. Therefore, they're more prepared and understand how to take that, because the learning itself is designed to help them figure out how to get to the answer. And so when they get to college, that thinking, that critical thinking piece is what is the skill that they will continue to draw on, so that, because it is a one and done in college for sure, but if they're prepared with the skill of how to process information, how to solve a problem, how to do the work, then they can apply that. Is that the goal of standards-based grading? Is to give them those different opportunities to not just like teach to the test or study this and then we move on to the next thing. It's more about like the process of learning. And then how do you use those skills to help to prepare you as an engaged learner when you move on to whatever your next step is? Is that
And that's
right? A little bit?
absolutely it. When we said it helps you get a deeper learning and understanding of what those concepts are, because now I'm not telling you, well, you don't know what, 25 plus or 25 times 25 is. Now you can know and understand those skills that are needed to be able to solve that. So then I can take those critical skills exactly like you said and apply those in any realm of my life that I, whether it be college or career.
And can I add, most of our students who are in dual enrollment don't have a one and done. That is not the case of our students who are dual enrolled at YCS. They are doing choices. They are doing rubrics. The students at Washtenaw Community College, oh, you got STEM students. Are your STEM students got one and done? Yeah, the fifth year students. No, I'm talking about, but they have project based. They have project based. Our fifth year students don't have, I take a midterm and a final. Our fifth year students who just graduated and our students at Washtenaw Community College have rubrics, they have projects, they have to make decisions.
Mhm.
And so what we've seen with our students who are in courses, they're doing some of this stuff. The students in our local high schools, they go to the high school projects, and I don't want to name our neighbors, but they're doing standard-based grading. And so she's getting this from her colleagues, that they're looking at different things based off of the colleges that students are going to. And so our students who are dual enrolled and our students who are in our 5th-year programs that's not the projects that they had old school colleges like we went to. Their experiences are like this. So that's what our current students are going through. And we want more through Detroit Drives Degrees and through the Toyota program. We want them, that's what's on the wall right here. Actually behind you is what we were practicing. So you'll see them on the wall is what we want to prepare them for. And we literally just had the meeting last Thursday to prepare them for what she's talking about. And we had the people in this room to prepare them for that. And so they were talking about how we need to prepare them for 6th grade through 8th grade, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and beyond, after high school and college. And so they were helping us to drive how to prepare them beyond that. And so this is kind of how we are driving this conversation. It's not just Dr. Harris Hugan. It literally has been a collaboration through all these people. So it's truly not just her and her curriculum folks. It has been all these people giving her input.
So no, I understand that. I mean, I know Wade does it. I mean, there's other components. What I want to make sure of is that that we master the skill set for them knowing, I don't want you to shy away from the 500-word essay. I think all of our students should be able to have comprehension on how to be able to articulate something in writing.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times I've been to several colleges where you have the group setting where you're working project based, and then you also have your own individual. And we want to just make sure that regardless what option comes their way, that they understand how to do that. And that is, you want them to take the hard choice versus the easy choice.
Absolutely.
And we don't want any gaps into the grading process.
I agree. Wherever they go, we want all of our students prepared. I appreciate that, Trustee Townsend. Wherever they go, we want them prepared. And I think that's where this rubric is. If we just give them a test every single time, we're not preparing them for, if I got a rubric and I got to make my own choice, what do I do? That critical thinking that I think that Dr. Hawkins was saying, what do I do when I'm given a choice and I'm used to just having a test? Or I'm only used to one thing. What do I have to do? And the teachers at the schools are really creative at giving them these options when you give them those rubrics of saying, here's some choices. When I'm at a 2, how do I know how to get to a 3? And I have to know for my own self where those gaps are, and the teachers have to help them to get to that next step. That's that challenge of for me, like when I was in geometry, what's that one thing that I'm missing? And I think that's that critical piece of how do I help Alina get to that one next step to get to the 4.
And I love it. It's all about what and getting picture. I think beauty is that this is exclusive student enterprise where they actually are self-regulated, and it doesn't change. Everybody knows what's expected. It knows what we're going to take this. All the questions. It means that the student's not depending on the teacher. Even though they have and then conversation becomes more rich. Because then the conversation becomes more transferable skills that get you ready for college, and you're happy because it's expected. And we've done the same thing that is being expected in college. That works really well. I really, you're hitting on the mind, because I think the biggest thing about us here is rigor. When I support, rigor is not going to compromise here. It needs to be, and I like it, to be here to see the clarity. So thank you, because I think you're hitting on the main.
And my last thing, and then I'll leave it alone, is I want to make sure when we're communicating with parents that we be intentional about having informational sessions
Yes.
to guide them through this process,
Mhm.
because most parents went through the traditional grading
Mhm.
system. And I just think when we have a stronger partnership with parents,
Yeah.
then it just makes a more successful student.
Yeah. And that's why we said, you know, clarity, questions, communicate. Because I think, like you said, if they're not our partners in this and they don't understand it, then they're gonna pick it up and just kind of, all right, whatever. I was in another district and we moved over to standards-based grading and the report card went from 2 pages to about 12 or 13 pages.
It's not gonna-
And parents were just like overwhelmed. So we talked to some of our partners that have done this work and that have learned through their failures, looked at some of the things that they did, but definitely making sure that our community, our parents, our families know and understand what this looks like and why this is important for them, and also helping them understand that this will transfer into a grade so that it's not a transcript that goes to, you know, U of M with 1, 2, 3, or 4s on there. It will transfer over to an actual letter grade.
And I just have one last question. Will we always keep both the scale and the grades, or will we move to, like, is the scale more for the students to really understand where they are in this kind of scale? And then they will start to understand that a 4 translate, but we have to do some educating around how the scale then translate, or what it means in terms of, because we're all conditioned to know that, like, okay, what does that mean in terms of a grade? So we'll always keep both, but I guess maybe for my own clarity, the scale will always be used because it helps the students to see where they are
Yes.
along that scale. But that also translates for them when it's time to issue report cards. They won't get numbers, they will get the letter grades on their
Yes.
report card.
Yeah.
And that's what will show up on their transcript.
Yes,
Okay.
that definitely will show up on their transcript. One thing, that, and we're still in the process of doing this work. I look over at Solomon because we are, deep into it. But looking at, all right, so here's the power standard. And then what are the 4 most important things that those students need to learn? And then giving them a 1, 2, 3, or 4 on those portions. And then it translates up to what the grade actually is. So when you go back and you look at this, you see that B+, but right under that B+, it kind of identifies why that's a B+. So it helps the parents as well as the students make that connection and continuously make that connection.
Board,
you.
just be really clear. This is just the introduction. This is
Yes,
just, we
yes.
did,
More
this is just, this is, you're right, we are just introducing this concept so that by the time this is ready to go to, that board feels comfortable,
Yeah.
parents have, teachers, they've been talking about, again, they've been talking about this at the high school a long time, but we knew this is that.
It's a heavy lift. It
It
is. They've been doing this since 2019. And this is a heavy lift, and it's not something that you wake up and say, all right, we're going to standards-based grading. This takes years to ensure that we are doing this with fidelity and that we have the voices of our students and our families, and that everybody knows and understands what this actually means.
Any other board questions or comments? Thank you so much, Dr. Hugan.
Thank you.
Next, that takes us to the first public comment portion of the meeting, and we have 2 public comment cards that have come in. I'll read the public comment protocol momentarily. Ms. Haynes, are there any other public comment cards that have come in? I don't know if there are people here who still need to fill these out. If not, I will go ahead and read the public comment protocol. Pursuant to Board of Education Policy 0167.3, the board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express their views. Please limit statements to 3 minutes in duration. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. No person may address or question board members individually, and all remarks shall be made in a respectful and professional manner. First, we have Ruth Cassidy.
Hi, my name is Ruth Cassidy. I'm a constituent in the YCS district, and I'm also a member of an organization that's helping with refugee welcome. So a few of the students are enrolled in YCS schools, and it came to our attention because I've had to go and take one of the kids to school because of the busing situation, that the buses kept getting canceled unexpectedly with very little notice. And this is causing him and many other students to miss multiple days of school. So far this semester, I've heard he missed at least 4 days because of this situation. And I was pretty alarmed by that when I've gone to give the student a ride. He's asked to go pick up other friends. And then I drive, I see multiple students out and about that are like middle school age, not in school because the buses are getting canceled. And this is also student, it's 5 miles from the school. So this is not like he can just go walk there easily. So I'm pretty concerned, and I wanted to come and speak about this. And, ask the school board to take this matter as an urgent one, and to do something to address the urgent situation, which, I know there's something that could be done about combining routes or something like that. But then there's also, looking forward, there's paid to the bus drivers probably needs to be increased in order to attract more drivers and make that competitive with other districts in our area. There's also this is a privatized company that's not meeting the needs. I mean, I think it's pretty just alarming that they're just not having the buses come. So yeah, and I want to highlight this particularly impacts working class and poor families, family that, I'm helping with. They're reliant on public transportation. They can't just go drive. And I mean, they have some more community supports compared to similar families, but this is who's really getting impacted and could fall through the gaps, so I just wanted to come and ask the school board to address the situation, maybe support higher pay, move away from this contractor that's not meeting the needs. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ruth Cassidy. Next, we have Mariah Seisberg. Did I say that correctly?
Hi, I'm Mariah Zeisberg, and I'm just thank you for this meeting. This has been a really fascinating meeting to watch, and I've enjoyed it and learned a lot. So I just wanted to say that I'm a parent of a child who goes to Ford Early Learning Center, and I second everything that Ruth just said. The busing situation is really hard. But what I was here to speak about is the lunchroom staffing situation and to request some attention and care for that. So my son is in kindergarten, and it's been a rough experience And so I started volunteering in the lunchroom just to be present and kind of just see what the scene is and be helpful to the staff. And I came back from one of the volunteerings really worked up. And so I just had to write just a list of details that in my 3 sessions volunteering each time for 3 lunch shifts. So that's 9 total lunch hours that I've been present for. These are all really specific observations that I saw, just so you can kind of see what worked me up so much. But I want to say that I've also seen a lot of really beautiful things, very, very hardworking staff, a lot of beautiful interactions between children and adults. So I'm not wanting to cast aspersions on anybody, but they need more staff and they need a better ratio of adult to children, because I think it's very hard to manage large group of children. Right now it's 2 lunch monitors and 60, at the largest one, 60 kindergartners and first graders, all who haven't had recess or who had very limited recess. So it's intense. So this is just a list of just observations of things I witnessed. A child almost accidentally pulls a fire alarm on purpose, not knowing fire alarm. The teacher intercepts and they're scared and upset. They're angry. And this is not a peaceful transition for the group back into class. Another child forgot their water bottle. They don't like milk. They need help getting water, but there's no one to help them. And so they just don't get water. There's a child who left their lunchbox in the classroom. Without a lunchbox, they don't eat lunch. That child has an IEP due to outbreaks that are in part triggered by not eating enough protein. After not eating lunch, they go back to the classroom and punch another kid. That's my kid. They gets punched. 2 children are bored. They remember an insult from earlier in the day and they start to fight. But they are very easily redirected to a game of rock, paper, scissors if there's a grown-up there to focus. Kids who have been sitting still for a long time start to dance in the line waiting for their lunch. Without any adults to hold that space, this creates a lot of frustration by overwhelmed adults who are trying to get kids through in an orderly way. And it turns into a conflict between adults and kids. But if there's an adult just hanging out to hold that space, the children can dance and they can be seen without disrupting each other, and they can keep it friendly and they can demonstrate their skills, and everyone gets a little joy and there's just a little smile because they're good dancers. And the kids are happy to get their lunch and they cooperate when the adults ask them to grab their milk on the way out. So these are all just things I've witnessed. A kid with a physical impairment has shoelaces that are undone and they almost trip and fall. But if there's an adult, that kid gets their shoelaces tied. These are kindergartners and first graders. A kid struggling with sensory regulation gets very angry by the noise and they start yelling, almost like picking a fight with the other kids, just because they just need everyone to be quiet. A fight then breaks out between those kids, and that child does not return to the classroom ready to learn because they're still processing what happened. They look kind of numb and disconnected when they leave. An adult lunch monitor. This is what inspired me to come. Has poor skills of emotional self-regulation. The noise and the busyness of the room and the lack of cooperation of one child creates anger and frustration in them, which they have not learned how to manage. And there's no other adult available to step in and reorient. So the monitor yells really loud and harsh for about 5 full minutes at another kid while a group of children watches. And those are the emotional regulation skills modeled for 60 kids in the room. A teacher is frustrated because she can't get the kids orderly in line. She's talking to them really mad. The lunch monitor already had a challenging interaction with one of them. It escalates between them into like a power struggle between a 5-year-old and a grown-up. And the adult yells at them that they'll never let a child disrespect them. It's very unclear what the positive outcome from that interaction is supposed to be. Here's some other things that I witnessed. A room full of children just downing their salad, eating every bit of it because there's a lunch monitor available to get salad dressing on it, and they love that salad dressing. And just like scarfing down those vegetables. Two quiet girls can't stop bugging each other, and there's like a quiet unfriendliness building up between them. They start glaring at each other. Then an adult joins them. And while the children are,
Mariah, we want to hear all of your, but that's the timer. But so if you want to wrap up, we
Okay.
would like to hear everything that you have to say. We gave you additional time, but please go ahead so you can,
okay, I'll just finish.
thank you.
Um, an adult joins and helps them play a rhyming game, and they leave and help each other with their napkins. So what I'm wondering is if there are, first of all, ways to just get more adults in the lunchroom, more trained adults, or if lunch can be like a special for the children and treated with that level of, that these are kindergartners really like learning how to just be in a group together. But something really does need to be done. And I told my son what the purpose of the board meetings was. And I said, what would you like to say to the board? What would you like them to know? And he said that they need some magic so that the grownups won't need to yell. So that's what he wants to ask for. And I don't think we need magic, just funding and care. So thank you all for your work.
Thank you for your comments, Mariah Zeisberg. Ms. Haynes, are there any other public comment cards that have come in before we move to our next agenda item?
Good evening, everyone.
Hold on one second. Thank you so much.
I'm coming to address the issue that happened last month.
I just want to introduce you. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. We have Latricia Solomon. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm coming to address the issue that happened last month regarding my daughter.
Uh-huh.
We came from Ann Arbor, originally from Detroit. My daughter was attacked last month in the bathroom. My issue was that the principal did not contact me. The only reason I knew about the incident is because she had her phone on her and she called me as soon as it happened or whatnot. I understand she had to get suspended, but it was a whole 10 days. My daughter has never been in trouble until she hit your district. Okay. And then my biggest issue was that not only did she not communicate, she hit me with a trespassing. And I didn't understand why. On top of that, in order for her to even speak with me regarding the issue, I had to get a police escort. My daughter is under your care for about 8 hours a day. All I ask is for communication. You get what I'm saying? On top of that, I also tried to, transfer since she didn't want to talk to me and she's treating me like somebody she knows personally. So I tried to get her transferred over to Belleville. She stated to Belleville, she, meaning the principal over at Ypsilanti High, she stated to Belleville that basically my daughter was the aggressor and that she's a problem child. And it's not sitting well with me at all. So my daughter hasn't been back to school. It's been a month now because I have a trespass and I don't feel safe with my daughter being in a school where the principal does not communicate. She would not even talk to me until I got Washtenaw County Police involved. So my issue that I want resolved is, first off, I want to understand, how are you able to put a trespassing on somebody that child attends the school? A weekend, maybe 365 days is what she stated. And then when she was not able to tell me why I had the trespassing, why she felt intimidated, what happened, all she can really say is, I was told by somebody else to not let you in the building. And I'm just like, it's a bunch of misunderstanding. I'm having an issue with the way the high school is ran completely. Okay. And I don't like the fact that my daughter is being labeled as a problem child when the proof is in the record. She's never been in trouble until she hit this district. She's been in Rouge, Detroit, Ann Arbor, Livonia, you name it. She's been there. As soon as she hit here, she's been attacked and then being accused of being an aggressor. Then mom gets hit with a trespassing, but you want me to send my child back to school, but you can't even communicate with me. You would think I knew this woman personally, the way she treated me that day. So I just want that addressed, and I want to know when my trespassing will be lifted and when my daughter will be able to attend school, as well as, can we do something about that 10-day suspension that's on her record? Just 10 days? Okay, I understand if you're a problem child, if this is something that consistently happens. She was attacked and she got a whole 10 days out of school. And that does not sit well with me at all. That's one with her to college, everywhere. I don't like it. So I was just wondering if we can do something about that and maybe, get a parent meeting. I still don't know really what happened in the bathroom. I just know my daughter was attacked. She never seen a nurse. Nobody ever contacted me. Like I said, when I got here, my baby's shirt, she had on a white shirt and her whole shirt was red. So I just really want to know what happened. I was never talked to correctly or informed the right way about what happened, why it happened. or any of that. I was always treated as an aggressor by the principal. And that was my first time ever meeting her. You get what I'm saying? So I just want that addressed. I want to know, I want my baby to be safe in her learning environment. I want my daughter to be comfortable with coming to school without worried about being attacked or being accused by her own principal of being a problem child when you can just check the records. You get what I'm saying? So I just want to know if we can possibly get a meeting. I know she stated to me, we have something coming up next week, soon as we get some time, and I'm just waiting on that. I just wanted to get that out there. The principal is very unprofessional. I wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Latricia Solomon, for your comments. And it is, just so you know, like the board doesn't normally respond to members of the public who come up and address the Board of Education. So I didn't want you to think that like we're hearing you, but we aren't saying anything to you. That's just the public comment protocol. But it sounds like you have something that's being followed up on, and we have noted your concerns. So thank you for coming out this evening. We appreciate it. Thank you. Next, that takes us to our consent agenda. And at this time, is there a motion?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Education approve the January 2023 regular board meeting minutes and the personnel matters as per the presented list dated 2/21/23 resignations and retirements.
Thank you. A motion has been made by trustee Gainsleigh. Is there support for this motion? Thank you. Supported by Vice President Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to our first discussion item this evening, and that's a first reading of our Neola policy updates. And at this time, I will turn it over to, do you want to share anything, Dr. Zachary Ross, before I turn it over to the chair of the policy subcommittee to lead us in a discussion? Is there anything you want to say first?
I just thank the board. I know some of these are from our September, I believe, subcommittee meetings. They are several of them are about staff dress and grooming. So they are from several of the areas of the policy manual. So you'll see they look pretty similar, but you'll see that they are from multiple areas. So the 1600s, 1300s, 3200s, 4200s, 5500s, but there are about similar areas. The first one's about dress and grooming. And then, so they're pretty standard, but I know our chair will talk about those. But they do come to you from, that we reviewed them from September. So I know, I know.
My memory is
I know.
crystal clear
I
on
know.
the choices we made. Thank you.
And the other ones are just about the grants, and I believe it was just the change of the 10,000 or the maintenance of effort.
Yeah.
And they were all, again, the same, just at
Yeah.
number D.
So the only thing that I don't remember, so there's, so in general, policy 1616, 3216, and 4216 are all about staff dress and grooming. 5511 on the agenda says that it's staff dress and grooming, but it's not, it's student dress and grooming.
No.
And so, but basically, Neola gives us options. Sometimes we just have to follow exactly what they say in order to stay within the law. And sometimes we have choices. And whenever we have choices as a policy committee, we want to make sure that we are viewing them through a lens of equity and making sure that we're trying to support and protect the most vulnerable members of our school community. And so we wanted to make sure that staff had, a recognized right to dress however they want to within the dress code. So I do remember kind of a big discussion about the board recognizes employees' right to dress in accordance with their gender identity within the constraints of the preceding dress and grooming guidelines. And we don't necessarily use the term gender identity anymore. It's just somebody's gender, right? You are the gender that you are, whether you're non-binary, whether you are just the gender that you are. So it's a little bit of outdated language. But the idea is there, you know, if you get to dress how you want. It kind of doesn't even matter what gender you are, you get to dress how you want within the guidelines of there's an already existing dress code that is not gender segregated, it's gender neutral, the dress code for staff. So that was really the idea that Neola had, was to try to protect the rights, especially of our transgender, nonconforming, and non-binary staff, which we want to do. We love that. It's a bit clunky. But that was the idea behind those. For the student one, though, this is what I don't remember. For the student one, if you look at 5512, was it 5512? Hold on. 5511, which is the student one, we actually took it off. Because in fact, the kids just get to, again, it's the same thing. Kids get to dress how they want to. We have a dress code. And then there's this whole issue of dress codes often are weaponized. And I'm not saying that Ypsilanti does this at all, but I'm saying historically, and then often even in current times, you know, dress codes get used to police, especially the body of women and femme presenting sort of people. And we certainly wanted to make sure that we didn't in any way inadvertently promulgate any of that. So we took out the language about the gender identity completely. Students' right to be who they are is protected in our non-discrimination statement. And it means an awful lot to the district that be followed. And so the only part I don't remember is why we kept it in the staff one and took out the student one. But that's my memory, is just that we, you know, that's everybody in this district gets to dress according to who they are and how they want to dress, period, within the confines of the dress code, which is supposed to be gender neutral. So that's really where we're at with this. We just want to make sure that, like I said, the most vulnerable members of our community are protected.
And on those, that's on there, we did cross it out on the paper ones. We did.
On the
cross
paper
it.
one, okay, so
Yes,
on
we
this one
did.
that I have in the
Yep, we
agenda.
did
okay.
cross those out.
Good. Okay. So yeah, that's really, I mean, teachers, staff, students, they're all protected through the non-discrimination clause, and that means a lot. But we did want people to know, like, that matters. So anyway, that was those policies. So the fact that we crossed them out, we just didn't want people to think that meant that it didn't matter. It is in fact very much the opposite. And then the grant funds and cost principles, an awful lot of these Neola policies that come across the desk of the superintendent's office and the policy committee is just, we sort of have to pass them because they keep us updated on federal spending guidelines or state spending guidelines, you know, and notifications and so forth. So that's what those are. And then I don't remember talking about the administrative guidelines, and I don't see a copy here. So I don't remember anything about the bus driver qualifications, diabetes exception, which I see at the bottom of my agenda.
AG 4160D.
Yeah, AG 4160D and AG 5511, which is presumably just the same as policy 5511.
Just the administrative guideline for it. 41.
Yeah, and it says that this administrative guideline has been revised to reflect the change to bus driver qualifications as found in enrolled house. So it sounds like it's another one of those things that we have to do to stay legal, but I don't know what it says.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
see it either.
she was like, she should have taken, cause I'm like, you don't vote on administrative guidelines.
No, I didn't think so either, but I thought I would address that. So I was like, why is that there? Okay, great.
No.
So anyway, so yeah, so the policies, you know, that's the overview. I would welcome any conversation about, you know, any of them. But anyway, that was our thinking.
Thank you. Trustee Sherman. Yep. Go ahead.
The dress code for the students.
Mm-hmm.
You said they can wear anything they want there.
Well, there's a dress code, but
Okay, so that dress code, they can't wear like spaghetti straps?
I hope that the dress code isn't that restrictive. I don't actually know, but like the point is that whether you're presenting to me as I perceive male, female, non-binary, whatever, if you can't wear spaghetti straps, you can't wear spaghetti straps. It's not like, oh, you're a boy and boys can't wear spaghetti straps and skirts. Just see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's that, but
So the code of conduct is different than the board policy. Code of conduct is day to day. This is the policy. So the policy is the big overarching. This is our policy. The code of conduct that's in the building that would go very specific to day to day is the building. Each building has a code of conduct that you guys get usually at the beginning of years, a big code of conduct. This is the board policy about dress and grooming, which is like it talks about that presents a hazard to the health or the safety of the student or others in the school. Like it's big idea. The day-to-day that would say 3 inches or something, that would be, that's code of conduct.
In practice. Mm-hmm.
That's the practice.
Okay.
I'll just make one note. Again, thank you for summarizing all of this. Trustee Schindler, as chair of the policy subcommittee. I do want to just note 2 quick things. One, what I think Trustee Schindler has said, is that our policies are written, and whether we have additional language to include or not, we are required by law to make sure we comply with Title 9 and Title 7. And I think that so I think that's just the gist of it. Like, we have to make sure we are following our policies in accordance with the law. And our first read, as the board knows, is an opportunity for us to discuss, ask questions, but this will come back before the board for a second reading, and then we will adopt it at the third time it comes back to the board. So this is not like a one and done opportunity. So if you look through this and you don't ask questions today, it's gonna come back for a second reading, and then the third time it comes back, we will adopt it as a board. So there will be more opportunities. So I just wanted to note that. Other board questions or comments? No questions? No comments? Okay. Thank you again, Trustee Schindler.
you're welcome. Thank you, Madam President.
Next, that takes us to, and I just wanted, Ms. Haynes, in the board packet, we'll change that. It says staff. I know there were some notations that it said staff, but it should say students. Like, so for 5511, it says staff dress, but it should say students.
Just check it.
Yeah, because the language in the policy references students, but then it says staff above it. Okay, thank you so much. Yes. Next, that takes us to action item, our first action item under business and finance. And that first item is a donation from our Rotary Club of Ypsilanti. Is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, Vice President Lee moves that the Board of Education accept a donation from the Rotary Club of Ypsilanti for $3,000.
Thank you. A motion has been made by Vice President Lee. Is there support for this motion?
Support. Trustee Fields.
Thank you. Supported by Trustee Fields. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Rotary Club of Ypsilanti, for this generous donation. Next, that takes us to an action item under number 11, and that's the acceptance of our Black Lives Matter resolution. Dr. Zachary Ross, would you like to say a few words about our annual resolution?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. We are just, number one, as Dr. Lopez mentioned earlier, we just appreciate the board's support. We know that in some places, people can't even talk about this. And so number one, I appreciate the board support. I appreciate Aaron for putting the flag up today. The flag is up and flying. At this point, our Black Lives Matter flag, and we know in the past, we've had people take our flag twice. And it is up flying again. And so I appreciate it. This Black Lives Matter resolution, we know that the week of action came in place earlier this month. However, we support this nationally. This isn't just this district. We support the movement nationally, and we support our students in this district, our staff in this district, and our community. And the work that has gone forth ahead of us. I know that people wondered about even the words, and is it still relevant? We did change the dates, but we did not change the tone of the resolution because this resolution is historic and has been recognized. And we followed the resolution that was put in place in 2021 because of the legacy of the resolution. So we know that there has been, unfortunately, other situations that have happened since then that just move our hearts and compel us to continue to remember this, why we continue to ask the board to pass the resolution. But the reason why we left these names is because of the significance of this resolution.
Okay, it doesn't. You sure?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure people understood
Yes.
that, yes, because I was quite, do we keep these words? We keep them because this is the historic resolution that was made when we adopted it, that aligns for this week, the week of action that takes place early in February.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Zachary Ross, for that reminder and really reaffirmation to how important this resolution is nationally and in this district. I will read the resolution and then we will take a motion. Whereas a national movement has arisen to assert that Black Lives Matter, and whereas this movement has raised awareness about injustices that exist at the intersection of race, class, and gender, including mass incarceration, police brutality, poverty, unaffordable housing, income disparity, homophobia, unjust immigration policies, gender inequality, and poor access to health care. And whereas throughout our nation's history, institutional and structural racism and injustice have led to deepening racial disparities across all sectors of society and have lasting negative consequences for our communities, cities, and nation. And whereas in support of a national movement of teachers, staff, parents, scholars, and administrators who have come together to proclaim a week of action, affirmation, and solidarity to be called Black Lives Matter Week of Action in Schools. And whereas the 13 guiding principles of the Black Lives Matter movement highlighted during this week of action are a means of challenging the insidious legacy of institutionalized racism and oppression that has plagued the United States since its founding. And whereas the Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action is intended to highlight, uplift, and affirm the rich history and contributions of the Black community, to cultivate in Black students a sense of pride, self-worth, and self-love, and to develop a widespread acknowledgement and appreciation for the contributions of Black people to our community. And whereas Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action is further intended to encourage ongoing critical reflection and courageous conversations concerning systemic racism, racial injustice, and racial and ethnic bias, and to affirm the right of Black students to be treated with respect and dignity within schools and communities, because when Black people are liberated, we are all liberated. And whereas shouting loudly that Black Lives Matter does not negate our commitment to all of our students, but rather elevating Black students' struggle to trust that our society values them, we must affirm that their lives specifically matter. And whereas the purpose of the week will be to spark an ongoing movement of critical reflection and honest conversations in school communities for people of all ages to engage with critical issues of social justice. And whereas the problems of society are mirrored in schools, and these problems can only be fully addressed with a united effort of community and school coming together for the betterment of our students' future. And whereas, as a public school district, we are facilitators of the limitless growth potential of human beings with a charge to guide our youth in finding and achieving their purpose with a belief that every human being deserves to live with dignity. And whereas schools should be places for the practice of equity, for the building of understanding, and for the active engagement of all in creating pathways to freedom and justices for all people. And whereas the Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action may offer a variety of educational opportunities such as workshops, panel discussions, cultural events, instructional activities, and expressions of unity. And whereas the National Education Association endorsed the Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action at the 2018 Representative Assembly. Whereas the annual Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action will take place during the month of February to coincide with and augment Black History Month. The 2023 Week of Action is February 6th through the 10th. And whereas the Ypsilanti Community Schools Board of Education and Administration believes that we have a special responsibility to understand and intentionally work to undermine racism and other forms of injustice in our curricula, our classroom cultures, our relationships with our students, our parents and guardians, and each other, because our collective future depends on it. And now therefore be it resolved that the Ypsilanti Community Schools Board of Education endorses and encourages district-wide participation in the National Black Lives Matter Week of Action in Schools to be held annually during the second week of February. And now, therefore, be it further resolved that the Ypsilanti Community Schools Board of Education encourages principals to submit names of educators across grade levels and content areas from their buildings to be the Black Lives Matter Week of Action 2023 building leads to use resources that are inclusive of all our diverse learners in order to enrich instruction on an ongoing basis throughout the entire academic year, so that we can continue to build bridges and mirrors for our students, staff, and community to be to each other what we all deserve. As W.E.B. Du Bois stated, the teachers of Black youth must believe in them. They must have faith in them and their community. They must trust them and encourage them and defend them. Right now, that means affirming that we are committed to the emotional and physical safety of Black students by endorsing and facilitating the Black Lives Matter Week of Action 2023 in Ypsilanti Community Schools. Is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, Vice President Lee, move that the Board of Education approve the Black Lives Matter resolution as presented.
Thank you. A motion has been made by Vice President Lee. Is there support for this motion?
Support, trustee Schindler.
Thank you. Supported by trustee Schindler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to our second public comment portion for this evening. Ms. Haynes, have any public comment cards come in? Thank you, Ms. Haynes. Next, that takes us to our board superintendent comments. Are there any comments from the board this evening?
Madam President, I have a couple of comments and announcements. I've been working with our events coordinator, Ms. Taryn Willis, in regards to, there is a realtors breakfast that will be on Thursday, March 16th. We will have, this is an event where we invite local realtors to come and get accurate information in regards to the district. You all know we are in a housing crisis. And this is one way that we promote the district in a positive way, as well as we will be having the Director of Operations from Ann Arbor Housing Commission that will be coming to talk about different housing opportunities and programs, whether it's with Section 8 and also other community development projects that are currently in the work within Washtenaw County to increase housing in the community. The other thing is I would like to personally thank all of our Divine Nine organizations, that is our historically African-American fraternities and sororities, and also other organizations, African-American organizations within the community for participating in our, I believe, 3rd annual virtual scholarship program that is held during the Black History series. We've had the amount of scholarships have grown almost to like 500,000. And so we want to make sure that we are posting this information on our websites, all of our social media, that the slides were dropped today with the information. The video was dropped as well. So we want to make sure that that's on our social media program. This is a partnership with the Ypsilanti Rotary Club as well. So we do want to just personally thank those organizations for continuing to be a support to the district. Last, I am the board representative for the WAS, the Washtenaw Area School Board Association, and also sit on the executive board. We did have our first legislative breakfast today. The Madam Superintendent attended, myself, Trustee Goodrich attended this morning. Trustee Goodrich has already provided notes to the boards in regards to what was discussed. One of the main points that was discussed was the debt and focusing on the $7 million operational portion of the debt that we want to have removed. So we had over 30 participants, particular State Rep Jimmy Wilson, who's for Michigan, I mean, not Michigan, Ypsilanti community, and some other representatives. I believe it was over 30 plus people on the call today. So it's, even though it was done remotely, we did have a large attendance from our legislators. And so we're looking to do some more programming and continuing that. So all members of the board are always open to attend those. You don't need a special invitation or anything like that. And it's usually at 7:30 in the morning at the WISD building, but today it was remote. So I encourage anybody that wants to attend to get information, please join. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Townsend. Other board comments?
Say I have a comment, but I just have a question to see if Dr. Zach, if you got my email. I sent you an email earlier today. I'm trying to get together a subcommittee for the community
Yes.
elections.
I'll
So we
be
can
happy to
just
have-
set something up there.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
I know she had gotten together with you, but I have already talked to her and put an agenda item on there.
Thank you.
Other board
Sorry, I
comments?
didn't respond.
Yes.
Thank you, Trustee Fields.
I attended the Head Start meeting on February 10th, which did not happen. We started at 10 on Fridays, but apparently, what's her name? Miss Erin Bradley, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. We did not have a quorum, so she had to call it at 10:17, and she's gonna she did send out emails about the meeting.
Okay.
But apparently, no one showed up. Well, a couple of people did, but no
Not enough.
parents showed up or anything. So what she's gonna do, she's gonna reach out to the parents and see if Fridays at 10 is good for them, and if not, what days would be good for everybody to meet. And she will be getting back with me to let me know.
Our next scheduled meeting is for March 17th, which is a Friday
Okay.
at 10 o'clock. And if that's not gonna work, she'll let me know and I'll get back with you on that, let you know what day and time that, we decide to hold the meeting.
Okay.
So, yeah. I'll update you on that,
Thank you.
so.
Thank you, Vice President Lee. Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. Other board comments? I will just note a couple of things. This is the day before we wrap up Black History Month, and I just wanted to say thank you to Taryn. I know every year Miss Willis puts together with other community leaders the Black History Month speaker series that Trustee Townsend referenced, and I just wanted to especially lift up and highlight two events that were really, really well received among many, many others. But I know the Just a Kid from Ipsy and You Don't Know My Story were two events that were both held. I want to say the Just a Kid from Ipsy this year, all of our events have been virtual. So it's been really nice to see that we've moved to have these events in person. So to be in this room a week ago and to see our male scholars and our female scholars come together and to share their stories, to share their experiences, and just to see them engage in a number of wonderful activities. That is us. It just made me think about like how it was called, You Don't Know My Story, but I was thinking the entire time how we have to do a better job of telling our story at YCS. It was an amazing event. We took wonderful pictures. There was wonderful food, wonderful conversation. And I know Trustee Townsend, you were the guest speaker for the female scholars at the event for You Don't Know My Story. It was just a really powerful and engaging event to see our young people taking the lead and really sharing their experiences and talking about things that matter to them. So it just felt really humbling. And I guess it felt like an honor for me to be in this space to see how so many of our scholars across our district are doing wonderful things. And often it seems like we don't hear those stories enough. So it was nice to pause and to just lift that up and to see how much good work amidst the things that we know that are challenging us. It's always nice to lift up all the great work our students are doing in this district. So I just wanted to note those two things. And I wanted to ask Trustee Townsend that I'm assuming that the rest of the legislative breakfasts are going to be held in person. I know this one was scheduled to be in person, but they had to move it online because of the weather event and because of not having power, but future legislative breakfasts are planned to be in person. Is that accurate?
Yes, they are planned to be in person. And then the next one, I believe, is in March, where we're gearing up for nominations for the executive board again. So I will be running for the secretary treasurer position again. We'll be running as a slate this time.
Okay, great. Yeah, great. And I think I might be forgetting something. Today was I appreciate Vice President Lee stepping in to run the board meeting, and I had a family emergency. All is well. So I thank everybody for their thoughts and encouraging words. I appreciate that. And the last thing, so thank you, Vice President Lee, for stepping in and for the entire board and our superintendent and everybody else for their kind words and messages for me. And March is Reading Month. That's coming up in 2 days. So I'm really excited about opportunities for us to be able to get in schools and read. And then the other last thing that I will say is I'm assuming that all the board members now know that we are doing these tours and they've signed up for a tour date. Okay. All right. That's all I have to say.
Madam President, I'm sorry. I just wanted to also acknowledge Ms. Sharisa Allen, who is the originator for the You Don't Know My Story and the impact that she provides to the district, as well as with Just a Kid from Ipsy. So she is a significant part of that program as well.
She is. And it was a phenomenal, I hope we have, I don't know what we have in terms of our pictures from that event, but I do know anybody who attended those events, it was just a joy. It was just sheer joy to see our young people being leaders. I mean, they're just leaders. They were just, I mean, and we just, and I guess I'm especially moved by it because of the things that you hear about IPSI, right? And the perception and whatever that is and whatever that means, which I have never adopted it because my kids have gone through this district and this is an outstanding district. And I always like to lift that up. And I don't want that to ever be overshadowed by the pockets of things that we know we have challenges with, but to see young people in spaces where they are doing incredible, and I mean incredible things in this district was just humbling and moving for me. And Sharisa Allen, thank you for mentioning that. Trustee Townsend was the originator of You Don't Know My Story. And it was, I mean, it was just phenomenal. That's like one word, if I could just sum it up in one word, it was a phenomenal event. And I'm not sure, was it for both the males?
Parent for just a kid from IPSI.
Parent for just a kid from
Karen-
IPSI, and
Karen
You Don't Know My
Willis.
Story for Sharisa, right? Okay, and was she for, it was the males and the females. She oversaw both of those. Yeah, it was outstanding. That's all. It was absolutely outstanding. And lots of people here from the community, people from the district. It was just an outstanding event. I just can't say enough good things about it. So a huge shout out to not just Taryn, but also to Sharisa. So thank you for lifting that up, Trustee Townsend, that she did spearhead that event and brought it to life. So that's all I got. Dr. Zachary Ross.
Thank you. And I also had the Black History Month event series. I just, again, want to thank the board because I know we have our new marketing and PR coordinator. And I just thank you all for allowing us to keep the event series going because I know that's in addition to, and I don't want to take away because I know we had the event series. Yet our teachers in our classrooms, in our buildings had so many other events. Those are
Yes.
highlighted a lot in the outside, out externally, but internally, if you had gone inside the buildings to see what's happening. I know Erin Anderson has a program coming up this week, even still that's happening in her classroom. Classroom teachers and buildings had some amazing things happening. So I don't want them to think that we just talked about the event series and they're like, what's happening? You didn't talk about our classrooms. So if you're watching teachers, classrooms, so they don't even have classroom. I could just hear it now. So classroom teachers, you were outstanding this month. Y'all tore it up. You did amazing. And on top of your classroom work, I hear you. I hear you out there. You were amazing. Our students did outstanding. Your classrooms were just, thank you for taking the time to celebrate, to educate, to remind our students about their geniuses. So thank you for doing that. And board, again, I know it just seems perhaps like a resolution, but the courage that it takes to pass that resolution that you passed tonight. Thank you for taking the time to do that. It's so appreciated. You just don't know what that means to me for you to take the time and to pass the resolution and to allow us to have that flag outside. Thank you. I also want to thank our parents for your grace and your patience with me and our team for several things. Number one, we know over just some past times, I know with us, I heard today with the parent with transportation, we are working together as a team. I see some of my team out there. Thank y'all for showing up every day. Thank you for coming in for your colleagues. They talk about outside, we don't have outside transportation. These are my people, they all work for YCS. We got rid of the outside transportation 3 years ago. We don't have no outside. It's all YCS. And they come into work even when the colleagues call in, and they come in every day. They come in within their collective bargaining unit. They come in and we're working on it. And I know there's always better we can do, and we're working on being better. I apologize that we're not the best I tell people every day, I've been every role. I don't know. I will be, I don't know transportation yet, but Erin Rose is working to be the best we can be. And in the meantime, I'm not making an excuse. I apologize. I'll do the best I can to improve. There is not any AATA better route. There is not another, we are working with there and back, but they do not have blinkers. We cannot use them to do an alternate route. People are like, why are you, we use them to do our shorter routes. There is no other alternate people we can use. We use them to do shorter routes. They corrected me. I cannot use them to do bus route 118. I cannot use them to do the larger routes. It's illegal. We cannot use them. We cannot bring in a driver who just has a CDL according to Michigan law. So people are telling me, just get somebody. We just hired, praise whomever. I know I can't. I'm grateful. My heart is grateful that we just had a job fair and we got 2 new drivers. There is a long process for onboarding, however. So just because we hired 2 new drivers, there's a process through the state of Michigan. It's not Ypsi Community Schools process. It's not the WISD's process. However, I'm grateful for the 2 new drivers. I want them to be onboarded. We're going to do the legal process of onboarding. No excuses, we're going to do it. And we want your students to be here safely, and we've got to do a better job. We can't just double up. There are contractual things according to our collective bargaining unit that we have to do, that we must do, that we will follow. And so thank you for your patience as we work through this. If you can remember, when we brought onboarding, we went to shuttles. We went to shuttles. We do not have the same number of buses or the same number of drivers as we did before the pandemic. And so we've got to fix that. We got to figure out how to right size that. We just don't have the same, we can't just roll out like we did after the pandemic. So we've got to figure out how to restructure that. So thank you for your patience. Also, thank you, parents, for your patience during this power outage. People wondered what was going on, especially on Friday when we had more buildings up, but with Willow Run down, that's where our buses are. You don't want us to put our buses out and we can't see them and where they're rolling from and what's going on. We had no power at that campus. So think about that. And thank you for today. Our drivers, again, they showed up. We forget about, they showed up. Weima did not have power come the middle of the day today. So they came back to work and they picked up those students, and within 1 hour, they got them all back home and still got our students back home. Thank you, drivers. Thank you, monitors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In addition, food service, thank you. They had to come in, they had to get the food, because when you don't have no power, you got food. Y'all know what happened at your homes. They had to come get the food and transport it to where we had power. And then today, when we came back, figure out which schools we were gonna have school, and they had to adjust the menus, because we have students that have need special food, special menus, adjust it, deal with the food spoilage, and get students fed. And we didn't have buildings up. One building was up. I was talking to, and thank you, Representative Brayback, because she was at midnight, we were still texting. After one building got up at midnight, was it home? One of the buildings got up at midnight. It was 3 a.m. the first call I got. I'm talking to him at 4 a.m. We start sorry, board, I was texting you at 4 a.m. So if I'm talking a little bit off right now, I started midnight, 3 a.m. and been here. We were at the legislative breakfast at 7:30. So you can understand my timing. But these folks were working, and food service was working. And our students, thank you, students, because our students were still, as you heard about the chefs, they were still trying to come in to practice and get ready. Our athletes and our athletic director was still trying to get ready for competition. Our coaches, ADs, staff, administrators, the dedication and commitment, and when they talk about resiliency of our students, our families, the grace, the compassion, when we talk about stronger together, like it's during times like this, it's just like the appreciation of being at YCS. I be like, I'm walking in grace because I be like, I'm so sorry. I had to call you at the last minute. Ford families, thank you. I really thought your power was coming on. I couldn't tell them to this morning because DTE, we didn't know everything else was popping on at midnight. I just knew Ford and Chapel would finally come on. Representative Brayback was hearing from DTE. Director Rose was hearing from I'm like, they're coming on. They got to Ann Arbor, all the schools except for the little whatever they were called, they were coming on. So I thought maybe they gotta come on. And so I waited till this morning. So thank you for your grace. I appreciate it. We're in these tough situations, trying to make the best decisions, trying to get hope that you can come to school. And so we lost RCTC also this in the middle of the day. But as of right now, I'm looking at Aaron really closely, Director Rose. So Chapel has power, RCTC has power, Ford does not have power. So parents, that's what I know right now. We are still hopeful for Ford. I will keep you posted. I want to sleep tonight, just like you. And I know you want your child at school, and I do too. But I wanted you to know as of right now, because if you're watching this board meeting, you want to know, just like I do. On March 13th at 6 p.m. is Nap It at Night. It will be streamed. It is not in person, parents. So please come and support by watching Nap It at Night. It will be in the newsletter how to look for it. And there are career fairs, March 2nd through April 26th, all at Wayne State University, Eastern Michigan University, U of M, and Grand Valley State University that our district is going to participate, and other people too. So if you are looking for a job, we hope that you will be at some of those career fairs. We hope to see you there. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Zachary Ross. I will save that. Okay. Any comments before I move on to taking a motion for our closed session? Any other board comments? Okay, next that takes us to item 14 on our agenda. Is there a motion at this time to go into closed session pursuant to Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act?
Madam President, Vice President Lee, move that the Board of Education go into closed session pursuant to Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act to consider the dismissal, suspension, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against, or to consider a periodic personnel evaluation of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent.
Thank you. A motion has been made by Vice President Lee. Is there support for this motion?
Trustee Schindler, support.
Thank you. Supported by Trustee Schindler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Will we stay in this room or do we need to leave?
As long as you can get this off. We stay in here.
Are we gonna stay here?
Stay.
Okay.